Hey, you awesome Q coders. We just wanted to put in a little bit of a disclaimer before this episode starts, but due to some scheduling difficulties, we were unable to create some brand spanking new content for you. So instead, what we have decided to do is just release an old episode, actually the very first episode we ever recorded of the Q Code podcast, but has never actually been released. We call these our lost episodes. So I hope you enjoy this lost episode number 2, and we will catch you again live next week.
Welcome into the Q Code. Your curiosity quest starts here.
Hey everybody, welcome to the new podcast that everybody's talking about. And when I say everybody, I mean literally everybody in this room.
This guy
Three
is
of us talking about this podcast. It's called Q Code Podcast.
I thought you were going to come in and be like, by everybody, I think you mean, wait, I don't know what I'm saying.
You ruined it.
Should we start again?
Nope. We've already begun. See, this is the type of things that we do. We're not a redo type podcast. We just wing it, and we will see what happens. If you're not entertained, sorry.
Okay, I got it back. But
If you're not entertained, you're
If
Roman.
you haven't heard about this, then you're not cool.
Yes.
And you got to pee your pants to be cool.
You gotta pee your pants to be cool.
You ain't cool unless you pee your pants.
So yeah, we're called the Q Code Podcast. My name is Travis Cole. My two cohorts here. I'll let you say your own names.
Well, I appreciate that. My name is Dan Barnes.
Alan Barnes.
So yes, I am with two
Barneses.
And we've created this podcast for what purpose? We're not exactly sure yet. I think we're going to figure it out. And your question might be, what is Q Code?
The purpose is for you, the listener, of course, right?
Yes, to the Q Code podcast.
How often does Alan say something that we just don't know what to say back to?
No. Well,
should be a question.
For anybody who maybe has listened to us before, we have had one other podcast, and that was the 4340 Sports podcast. We ended that abruptly after we realized that not all of us really knew that much about sports.
Not that we all know a lot of
One of us knew a lot about sports.
Or at least took the time to learn it. The other two of us just decided to know whatever just came in, just normal life events.
Just whatever you acquired throughout normal life.
Yes, that is what I'm saying.
Just living life.
But now we have started this new podcast, Q Code Podcast, which you might wonder, what is that? What does that mean? Well, that is the question, isn't it?
Yes. So, basically, because, like Trav said, we all didn't necessarily have a passion for sports, or honestly, and I'll admit, I'm the one that's guilty. I was the one that probably has the biggest passion for sports. But even at that, I like other things too. And I think I'm not speaking out of turn when I say that both Alan and Travis feel the same way, that although sports are great, there are other things in life that we also enjoy and we would like to talk about. So we kind of came up with this whole concept of a show we call the Q Code Podcast, because each episode we are going to come out and we are going to ask a question, something that's been burning inside of us, something that we want answered, or something that we just want to know about, or something that we want to
just like I was saying, it's like we're just burning question. As we get to my question today, we're going to see that it is a very big burning question.
So it was literal.
Something that I had to know.
But the whole point is, in the end, you got three of us here, even though we are all friends / family. we all have different tastes. We have different interests. And so I think you guys are all going to see that in the questions that we come up with. There's just going to be a whole smorgasbord, right? Is that how you say it? Smorgasbord?
Smorgasbord.
We also don't know words.
That's pretty much mostly me. But of thoughts and ideas and questions. So you may come into this show. You may really identify with one of us. You may identify with all of us as far as our interests go. You may identify sometimes with Trav, sometimes with Alan, sometimes with myself. But in the end, I hope that you find at least one thing interesting in the show each and every week. And hopefully, if you're like myself, who's just a sponge for knowledge, that you will be interested in everything that we talk about. And so in the end, we hope that you enjoy the Q Code podcast,
Where your curiosity quest starts here.
That's our tagline.
I totally read that wrong. I was supposed to read a tagline, and so I did. I have fulfilled my contractual obligation.
Just
So,
your curiosity. Wait, dang!
see, you can't even say it.
Your curiosity quest starts here. So, with that said, this week, our very first episode, we're going to get into. We got 3 questions. We got, what technologies could nuclear fusion unlock?
Yes, and I'm going to have to amend that one a little bit when it gets to that.
Okay. And then we got, what is the flat Earth theory, and why do flat earthers believe what they believe? And finally,
Who knows?
what is the Florida Man Challenge?
And see, mine isn't really a question, but since this is a question podcast, I had to put a question mark at the end of it.
I'm curious.
Well, yeah, I am looking for, because I did not look it up at all. I still right now I have never heard that before until you brought it up.
All right, then it's a question to you guys.
Either have I.
Have you heard?
I'm assuming I'm assuming it
because you
takes
said
place in Florida and involves a man
or a woman.
and a challenge. But
Yep.
that's all I know. Or do I know that? I don't even know.
Okay,
All right, so let's get into our first question. This question is brought to you by Alan Barnes. What technologies could nuclear fusion unlock? Alan, how did you want to amend that question?
So I was thinking about it. I was just looking stuff up, doing a little bit of research, and I decided I don't really. I mean, if you guys have ideas about technologies that could be unlocked with fusion energy and technology, talk about it. That's great. But I decided, like, I'm not creative enough to think about future technologies that don't exist yet that would be unlocked by fusion. I just found myself more fascinated with learning about fusion and sustainable fusion energy.
So I think right off
and
the
the
bat,
process of it.
Yeah, I think right off the bat, the first thing that you learned from this, is that you can have a question, but a question that you originally thought you had may actually lead to other questions. And I think that's something that I experienced with mine as well.
I did not experience that with mine. I feel like I'm really kind of not a part of this.
It just depends, Trav. I think I'm going to have a lot of questions about this Florida Man Challenge. Personally.
No, you won't. Just wait.
But anyway, so I think what you're saying, Alan, is yes, that you had this original question, but then as you started to research it yourself, you realized that there was more interesting questions or in interesting directions that you personally felt you could go in.
Yes, 'tis true. Okay.
So I think, first of all, if you wouldn't mind, what is fusion energy for people who don't know?
Fusion energy, every day you're living with fusion energy. That's what the sun is. The sun is just a giant fusion reactor. All it's doing all day long and all night long, you're just not on the right side of the earth, is fusing hydrogen atoms together, creating helium. And in the process, because Einstein says E equals mc squared, which is basically just saying energy and mass are the same, they're just two sides of the same coin. When you fuse mass into energy, or when you fuse hydrogen into helium, a little bit of that mass is converted into pure energy. And that's the energy we get. That's what photosynthesis works off of. We could power our entire planet for years and years based off of how much energy the sun outputs. Actually, it's in the millions of years. The amount of energy sun outputs in 1 second, we could literally run everything we have right now for millions of years.
So if we use fusion
Yes.
to run our planet,
Yes.
which has some element of helium, will we all talk like little squirrels?
That's a very good question.
These are the things I think of.
This is the
We would be
reason.
fusing hydrogen into helium.
Yes.
Why would we not all talk like Munchkins from Munchkin?
Honestly, that is my main motivating factor of why I want it.
But have you ever just taken a balloon with helium and just sucked it all in there? You get super lightheaded, and I feel like that's what we would be.
In a way, you're like fusing your lips around
Okay.
the nub on the
Stop
balloon.
using the word fusing.
I actually have the definition of fusion right here. Let me read it. The process or result of joining two or more things together to form a single entity. So if you were wrapping your lips around a juicy balloon, technically, I guess you could say you're fusing
Yeah.
yourself with the balloon.
Especially if you get stuck to it.
But you don't have to get stuck to it. That's nowhere in the definition.
In the end,
So, but yes, helium is the main byproduct of fusing helium, or not helium,
Hydrogen.
Hydrogen. They're both. I get them confused.
all right.
So
I'm
and
gonna
it's not
take-
carbon dioxide. It would be carbon dioxide free, be clean energy.
So no global warming.
Yes.
Yes, it is widely known as like the cleanest form of energy that we know how to create. It's actually something that I looked into when I was looking at this. I looked into a little bit more of like, okay, well, what about the whole renewable thing? Because for me personally, and Trav knows this because Trav used to work for a solar panel company.
Yes, and I knew all of the science and technology behind it. I was a recruiter. I work in HR.
So Trav, he got us in touch with his company when he worked for him at the time, and my wife is somebody who has a big aspirations to be green,
okay.
go green.
I thought my wife is a person who has a big ass.
Aspirations.
It goes back to the whole pausing at the wrong
So
time.
rude.
But no, she's always been somebody who cares a lot about the environment and the earth, and she wants things to, she's one that doesn't want global warming or something like that to occur. So naturally, most people would think like, well, if I use solar energy, if I use wind energy, if I used water powered energy, all these renewable resources, right, that you can create energy from, then that would be the best thing I can do to help the earth in the long run. But once I started looking into it more and more, it turns out that, like you said, Alan, fusion energy actually is going to be cleaner and more green in the long run than
Yes.
any of those renewable sources are. Because, and I actually found an interesting...
And so much more bang for your buck.
Yeah, because all of those renewable sources aren't... what's the word I'm looking for?
You can only build so many windmills, right? I'm like
Yeah.
you can't cover the entire surface of the planet. You could, but
So
we're not gonna do
So
that.
to create, like, have you ever seen a solar farm, Trav?
Yes.
Like, so when you're driving, like, on, I don't know, like when I drive to California,
all farms
Yeah,
are
right
technically
after-
solar.
right after Vegas,
yeah.
there's like a giant solar farm. It's just miles and miles of all these solar panels out there. But in the end, solar panels, it takes 450 times more land space to create the same amount of energy that you could create at one just like nuclear plant.
Yeah, using a tokamak, which I'm not going to get into the whole specifics of a tokamak. A tokamak is just what they call this this reactor. I guess, what
Tokamak
would you
is
call it?
basically
This power
like
plant.
2 Big Macs, like on top of each other. So you got 4 all beef patties,
Yeah.
special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on like 3 sesame
And that's
seed buns.
definitely something. That's definitely something you would eat while toking.
Yeah.
So
My mind went to like toga. And I was like, oh, yeah, you're going to put a toga on that for all beef patties.
See, that's how
again, Danny and
Danny
the words.
would love to just play with dolls. Just like, yes, we're just gonna dress up this Big Mac in a toga.
Okay. But to get back to what you were saying, it's a good idea, solar panels, but realistically, with the amount of energy that we continuously increase our usage by, that's going to be nothing. That's like pretty soon in a century that there's no way that could ever power everything we need.
Yeah. It's not reliable because, and Trav just pointed this out, the sun's not always shining. Water's not always flowing.
Did I point this out?
The wind's not always blowing.
I think he's giving me credit.
Didn't you just say something like that earlier?
I talked about the 2 Big Macs, but
Well, I'm just giving you credit for it.
all
Trav.
right. I said that.
But yeah, so it's not a continual source of energy that you can depend on and create electricity out of. So people have had, and this I thought was a pretty good idea, but they were thinking, hey, let's turn dams into basically like a giant battery in a way. But their idea was like use solar energy, use wind turbines or whatever to then power, like that'll pump water up to the top of the reservoir.
Ah, yes.
And then you trap, the waters in the reservoir. Then you can control when you let the water through, therefore creating the electricity when you need it.
Instead of the systems we have now where you're damming off water that is naturally falling into your water reserve, you create a closed system where, like those fountains you put in your yard or whatever, where it just keeps recycling the same water over and over.
Yeah.
But using renewable energy.
So when the
sources.
sun is shining or the wind is blowing, it's actually pumping the water up. But then but the problem is there's no real way to contain that energy. So if you don't use it right away, then it doesn't.
But I understand the whole battery because you might be like, how is that a battery? A battery is just something that stores energy. And if you have something that is in a high potential energy state, meaning it's up high, gravity is always going to be there. So you can drop it at any point. Anything that's higher, located like elevation wise higher than another thing, has more potential energy. As long as they're like the same mass, I won't go into that whole thing, but
Yes. Of course.
so yeah, you're saying
common knowledge.
You're saying store all these things in a
So
high
it's not-
potential
it's
energy
not like
state
you're-
so that you can, whenever you want, release it, let gravity use its energy, and you capture that energy.
Yeah.
in
It's
a
not like
big-
you're creating
in a-
literally.
We're going to call them big damn batteries.
Oh,
That's what we should call them.
good job.
Am I not allowed to say damn on
No,
air?
he's just a little mad because he didn't think of that.
Yeah, I wish I
Oh.
did. But yeah, it's not like you're just gonna have a giant Energizer battery or a Duracell battery there. It's literally just the concept of storing the energy via water.
I'm very happy that you explained that because I'm thinking that there was a big old battery like they got from Walmart and then just stuck it at the dam.
Oh, well,
Just kidding.
that should be how it is, but it's not.
So, are you done with? Are you?
Oh, go ahead.
Do you want?
Go ahead.
So, benefits.
What? Yeah, go ahead. Go. Yeah, no.
The benefits of this. Okay, the benefits of this is you don't need a lot of fuel. Relatively, it's the amount of mass, if you will, or heal. Actually, it's not even hydrogen. That's what the sun does. We would be using deuterium,
Well,
which is
what is deuterium?
deuterium.
Is that the metal that they found in Wakanda? that they made Captain America's shield from.
What was that called?
Vibranium.
Oh, yeah.
Vibranium. Deuterium is actually, is this correct? Is it just heavy water? It's water with an extra neutron? Or not?
Yeah.
Not heavy water. It's heavy hydrogen, but if you made water with this
Deuterium,
it'd be heavy water. So I think it's just hydrogen with a neutron.
Deuterium
So-
for those heavy flow days.
Let me, yeah.
Which is easier-
I'll try and do my best to describe this. Okay. So just to go back a little bit. So there's something called isotopes when it
Yes.
comes to atoms. Okay. So you have a hydrogen atom, which is very, very similar to a deuterium atom, but like what Alan said, adds a neutron, I believe, right?
Yes, just it adds a
To
neutron.
it. And so I know this is we're trying to not go into things like too deep, but this is like this is like chemistry.
You guys have already said deuterium.
This is like chemistry.
We're
Wait,
super deep right
Is it
now.
deuterium? Like dew as in two because it's two neutrons? Maybe.
Yeah.
Or wait, no. Does hydrogen even have a neutron? We're not experts in this, guys. We just think it's cool.
So if you look at the periodic table, right?
Yeah.
You start at the beginning
With
and it
hydrogen.
goes from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And each time that you go to a new element on the periodic table, you're adding basically
proton.
one proton and one
Yeah.
electron.
The only thing that matters when you're defining what an element is, what element that is the number of protons.
Yeah. So in an essence, when you're fusing something together, it's like taking 1 + 1, smashing them together, and it becomes a 2.
Yes.
Okay. So that's the basic concept of it. And then it spits off a little bit of energy in the form of a neutron.
Which, yes, is important because that's the energy you're going to harness, is that little energy it I almost said piss. Spits off. That's what you're harnessing. You have, so it's not 1 + 1 = 2 mass wise. You don't go 1 hydrogen plus 1 hydrogen and then the mass of the helium is the same as 2 hydrogens. It's a little bit less than 2 hydrogens because mass a little bit got turned directly into pure energy.
Yeah. But because deuterium has an extra neutron,
Yes.
it's able to spit off more energy.
Because so I think the advantage, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you have an extra neutron, when I think neutrons get blown out, right? Like with that energy, and then neutrons go and like stir things up in the soup even more to where it will like cause more fusion to happen.
Yeah. It's
in some way.
The classic Keanu Reeves
Kind of,
movie,
yeah, like a chain reaction.
Chain reaction.
Yeah.
Do you remember that movie, Trev?
I know. Yes, I don't think I ever watched it, but yes.
I actually always thought chain reaction was like a super cool word. Like, just like, I'm going to write a book someday called Chain Reaction.
Okay.
2 words.
Was that movie based on the movie
Touche.
or on the book? Chain Reaction? Was there a book?
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm asking you.
Well, just in case any of you are wondering what a Barnes family dinner is like, this is basically the conversation.
Hang on. I prepared some like more user friendly or listener friendly stuff. So first of all, I want you to imagine you come across a wishing well. You throw a dime into the wishing well and you wish for $1. You look in your pocket, you open your wallet, and what is there? $1 you didn't have before. Then you take that $1, throw it in the wishing well, and you ask for $10. And you open your wallet, you got $10. This is very similar to what we're talking about here because there's actually an experiment going. They're building a tokamak. I don't know where it is, but it's called ITER, ITER, where they think when they turn it on in 2025, they will be able to
dimes into
generate. They'll be able to generate for every 1 unit of energy they put into it to run it, they will get 10 out. So this is pretty cool stuff. And this is just the beginning. That's like their very first big time experiment. Like in the future, we could go 100 to 1, 1,000 to 1. So that will essentially make energy infinite and almost free for everybody. Because just like if you did that with money and you just kept doing that and everyone was doing that and making more money, you would run across a problem called inflation, and money would be basically worthless. You would not be able to buy a gallon of milk for $1 million because the dollar is worthless at that point.
Much like what's happening in Venezuela right now.
Yes.
So gallon of
but
milk,
you don't.
$1 million
But the important thing is you do not run across this problem when it comes to energy, because a kilowatt of energy is a kilowatt of energy, no matter how much energy you're making. Right? You can do the same work with a kilowatt of energy if you have 1,000 other kilowatts of energy or a bajillion other kilowatts of energy. It's still energy. Whereas money, it gets devalued.
Yeah. And to answer your question, Trav, yes, kind of. There's like been 10 million% of inflation in Venezuela, like in the last year. Everyone there is starving. The average adult has lost 24 pounds.
You know what? I need to lose 24 pounds.
You should go to Venezuela.
I should just go to Venezuela.
But their money is is worth nothing now that people are literally using the money, sewing it together, and creating bags to carry stuff in, because it's more valuable to them that way.
Wow.
So,
and I bet some are probably burning it for energy and heat
to stay warm. Because I think the last I heard is you had to work for like 6 weeks to buy a Big Mac.
Damn.
Like that's how much their money is worth right now.
What about a tarmac, or what'd you guys call it?
A tokamak? A tokamak.
Tarmac.
If we could only create tarmacs, guys, all problems would be solved. So I have one more cool fact though.
Okay.
So remember how I said that a little bit of that mass is turning into energy, pure energy. So it's essentially you lose mass in the process. The sun, it's so big, it's constantly fusing so much hydrogen together that every second, and this blew my mind when I researched this and read it, but every second the sun is getting 8.6 billion pounds lighter, because 8.6 billion pounds of that hydrogen is being converted into pure energy.
So like I told my wife the other day, I told her I need to lose some weight. So I'm going to be on the fusion diet. And then she said, what's that? And I said, well, the sun loses 8.6 billion pounds every second.
So we can either depending on your current weight, you can do the Venezuela diet or you can do the sun diet.
The fusion diet.
I feel like
The
you tried to
diet. Fusion diet.
really?
like one up me.
I'm not proud. I'm not proud of it. But actually my real response was like, I'm just going to eat Asian fusion food.
Fusion, was it Fusion of Asia? Is that what it's called? The restaurant?
It's like a type of it's like an actual style food.
Oh,
it's
it
like
is?
Asian fusion.
It's like
Fused with
Asian
what?
mixed with like something else. It's like a hamburger, but it's got
It's like
a
sushi.
tofu patty. Something, I don't know.
But interesting enough too, what Alan was talking about, how you're just trying to basically create, if you put in this much energy, you're trying to get X amount out, and their first experiment at that eater place or whatever it is to get,
We'll call it facility.
10 times more energy out than they're putting in. So they're calling that, but they name it. And I don't even know what it stands for. I just saw that it was called
Eater?
Q.
Oh, Q. Yeah, that's I guess in their formulas,
That's
the
their
ratio.
That's their measurement.
Yeah, the ratio, which is 10 to 1 or whatever. you know.
Well, they said they want a Q of 10, which I just thought was very applicable for the fact that we are doing the Q Code podcast.
Yep.
Vital information for you everyday life.
What?
But to answer your question originally, Alan, I mean, you said, well, what kind of things could you get out of?
Oh yeah. There's that whole part that you probably have
out of fusion, like in the future. And no, not really. I mean, like you said, it's hard to come up with something that you can't even imagine because you don't know about it. If you don't know about something, it's hard to like come up with it, right? But in the end, the whole point is you can use fusion energy to create a plethora of electricity, because the ultimate goal is just to create electricity to power everything that you have. So it can power your homes, it can power your cars, it can power anything and everything that you have. And you want to do it cleanly, you want to do it efficiently, and that's the point of nuclear and then i.e. fusion energy.
Yeah. And I don't know if Travis has any, like, if you had unlimited energy capabilities for anything, is there anything that comes to mind that you would do with it?
Clean my house.
Okay.
I have zero energy to do that.
Trav just came up with a whole like industry, like fusion pills. Like you just pop a pill and like, oh, they have that. It's called speed.
Yeah. It's a new drug.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
What you can that? Take it.
Is that E? No, it's F. Fusion.
Because I learned about it on Q Code podcast.
It's got a Q of 10.
But I'll mention real quick though, it does, like, this is totally synonymous with our current power grids. You would need to change nothing. You could start making energy in a tokamak and immediately put it onto the grid, and it'd be completely compatible.
Yeah,
as another plus.
It's science that we, in theory, know how to do.
Yeah,
but to this point, humans they haven't been able to find a process that's been effective enough to get more energy out than the energy that they're having to put in to fuse something. Because in the end, if you need to fuse something, you need to have temperatures in excess of about 100 million degrees Celsius.
My information says 150 million degrees, but by that point, I think they just split in hairs.
Semantics.
I just said in excess.
Oh, okay.
Of 100 million degrees Celsius, which is 6 times hotter than the sun.
That's true.
I don't think I can say Celsius.
Celsius. C. Just say C.
Celsius.
Why
are you saying Celsius?
Celsius.
I've had the hardest time with that word my whole life. Like, it's pretty hot. It must be like 40 degrees Celsius.
Okay. Which, by the way, if you're asking yourself what is the hottest place in the universe, it is actually the experiments that we have already done with fusion, because 150 million degrees, I think, is the hottest place ever in the universe. Not ever, but right now.
And we won't get into it now because I think we're getting to a point where we kind of need to wrap this up.
Yeah.
But how do you contain that kind of heat? That's a good question.
I don't know, a big fridge?
Because they obviously can. And I've tried looking at it a little bit. And
And you can,
a little beyond what I can comprehend at this point.
Well, let me say, you might be thinking, what kind of material doesn't melt in that kind of heat? And there's no material that doesn't melt, which is why you don't use material. You use a force, one of the 4 main forces in the universe.
Magnetism.
Which is, a magnetic field. A super strong, powerful, precisely designed magnetic field that will basically create a donut shape that you put the fuel in, and it holds it in there, and it goes around and around and around.
But I think yours would work too, Trav.
What'd you say?
I said Jedi.
Jedi.
You said the Force.
If you literally could just get a Jedi to stand underneath a chain reaction and contain it, then that might work. But do you guys have anything else?
They should when in the future, when they open a power plant, they should call it the Jedi.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So let's move. We're going to pick this up.
All right. That's that.
And we're going to move on to question number 2, which is, I forget. What is flat Earth theory, and why do flat earthers believe what they believe? Anybody here want to take a crack at what the flat Earth theory is?
That the Earth is flat
Congratulations.
instead of round.
Instead of being a sphere, correct? So, this is what
little things because I said round and I didn't say a sphere. Yes, sphere, correct.
Which exactly
It's not really. It's really what he's saying is no. You are incorrect. It is a sphere. It's not round. But I'll give it to you.
that's exactly why flat earthers hate scientists, I guess.
they're always being corrected.
They're so pompous, those scientists.
So, yeah, I'm sure at this point many of you know what flat earthers believe. But for those of you who don't, basically they believe that the Earth is flat, like a disc, like a frisbee, and that there's a North Pole in the middle of this flat Earth. And then around the outside of the Earth, containing the oceans and the land masses, is a giant ice wall.
Yeah, that's Game of Thrones, I'm assuming.
It was supposed to be Game of Thrones.
No, it sounded
The ice wall.
But here's the thing. One, the fact that like even the flat earthers themselves say, like every single one of them that I've seen an interview on says, yes. And so we have this giant ice wall that surrounds the entirety of the Earth, which contains the Earth's oceans. And that's how like the oceans don't just spill over the edge, right? So they have this, just like in Game of Thrones. That's what they say.
They say that?
Yeah.
I
So
wonder if that theory existed before Game of
that's
Thrones
what
came
I
on
was
the air.
thinking. I'm like, this theory must literally be like within the
Thank
last
you,
6
George R.R. Martin, for producing theories for the flat earthers.
I guess maybe is he a flat? Because if you look at the map on the opening of Game of Thrones, it's flat.
It's kind of 3D.
Well, okay.
But like
Not circle. It's not around. It's a sphere.
but yeah, I mean probably more so it's almost like, well, we have this problem that we can't get a lot of people to come to this flat earth theory because we can't explain why the oceans don't spill over the edge. But then as soon as George R.R. Martin came out with his book, then they were like, that's our answer. It's a giant ice wall that surrounds the entire planet and contains everything. So what explains another question?
So God forbid a dragon comes and blows a hole in it. We're all screwed. All the water's gone.
Because it's like a drain.
If there was a hole in the wall, yes, the water would drain out. If that's what's holding all the oceans in.
Did you get that? Did you get that?
Yeah,
He
the
was speaking
dragons-
of a hole in the wall.
I said, God forbid a dragon comes and blows a hole in the wall.
I just
So,
like watching you
I
guys
said
discuss things.
A dragon like Game of Thrones, I'm saying.
I get it.
Okay.
Did not get it.
You don't watch Game of Thrones, do you?
I am still on season
That is
4.
ridiculous. All right. Continue.
So you might ask, well, how do you explain gravity then, right? If the Earth is just flat.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they explain it because they say that the Earth is constantly moving upward, just perpetually through space.
Like an elevator.
Yeah. And that's why if you drop something, the Earth is just catching up to it. And
Yeah.
it's just that's what gravity is to them.
Would we not just like be pancakes on the ground?
That's true. I
Would-
guess
well-
our bodies have been conditioned or something to be able to withstand the constant upward movement. It's just like being on a ride. That
I
just
mean,
never
if it's
ends.
that
Well, because the problem with that is that
you drop something, the earth catches up to it. I mean, I don't know. I just don't.
like it is like
No.
it's like if you're in an elevator, right? Like the elevator moves up.
But if I drop something and the elevator is not moving up, it still drops.
I know.
They're saying it's constantly just moving up.
moving
So
up.
here's the problem with that, though. That implies, because an elevator, you feel the extra weight as it's accelerating faster. If it gets to a point where it's just going to constant speed, there's no gravity effect. You would have to constantly be accelerating the Earth faster and faster by 10 meters per second to always have gravity in their theory. So by now we're going billions and billions of meters per hour. We would be going far beyond the speed of light. And it would be an infinite amount of energy that you would need to accelerate something the size of Earth to those speeds.
Yeah, Kyrie Irving.
So I mean, if it's true, they found there's a source of infinite energy somewhere, and we don't need fusion.
No, I agree. Like you're correct in the fact that it's like, yeah, I mean, I think all that they probably did to come up with this theory is somebody literally rode on an elevator and dropped something. And they're like, well, this is pretty much like how the Earth works. It's just a giant elevator that's constantly moving upward. So then another thing is, okay, well, how are tides created? Because as far as we know, tides are created by the moon, right? So when the moon goes around, it creates a gravitational pull on the Earth, which then
like
causes
all
high
the
tide,
planets
low tide.
moving up at the same speed.
Yeah, what's the whole... I don't think there's answers to everything.
So like for them, there's like the moon and the sun, right? So how they explain days and nights is literally the sun goes around in a circle like this, just around
Above the disc.
above the disc. It floats above the disc and just goes around it.
Or like around the perimeter.
So when the sun is on your side of the disc, it's daytime. When it's on the other side of the disc, it's nighttime. Okay. So then natural question I would have is like, well, then how do you have seasons? Because why does it matter? Why don't we just have constant temperatures then? Like, why do we go like have cold seasons? Why do we have warm summers? And so they say that, okay, so not only is it moving in a circle like around the disc, it's moving in a circle up and down around the disc. And when it's up, it's winter. When it's
Like
down,
a bouncy ball.
yeah, pretty much. And when it's down, it's summer. Winter, summer, winter.
I can just
Okay,
see him
so-
like trying to explain this by using like a like what do you call it when oh man,
A yo-yo.
no, I'm not gonna say a yo-yo, like a test, or like that is, you know, something you can see visually,
Visual aid.
or something like that. They're trying to prove this, and they're like, okay, so imagine you're in an elevator, you have a bouncy ball, and it continually bounces, but when it's up, you're cold, and when it's down, you're warm, and we are just continually flying through space
in an
Hang on.
in an upward fashion.
But do they imagine the sun as a ball, as a sphere, or is that just a disc too?
Okay, so that's a good question. So they picture that the sun, the moon,
And hang on, because I realize we're saying they a lot. We're not
Earthers.
trying to be like super mean or say they're just so stupid or whatever. Because legit, I watched me and Danny, we watched a documentary about Flat Earthers. I forget what it's called and stuff. But I really it was hard for me to have any type of like hate or animosity toward them. I didn't disagree. I didn't disagree with anything they were saying, but they're like, it's amazing how if you were to talk, they're just human beings, like all of us. So, but continue with what you're saying about the disc of the sun. Is it a disc or what?
So
Is that what you're talking
all the
about?
other celestial bodies, if you want to call it that, is like the sun, the moon, the other planets in the solar system, they picture as all being spheres. So that's another classic question is like, why do you guys think everything else is a sphere, but we're not? Like the Earth isn't a sphere. So it's just another kind of, I know conundrum's not the right word. I just like using that word, but it is like kind of it's weird that you would be like, oh, well, yeah, everything else is a sphere except for the Earth. But where normally you'd be like, yeah, like if you see a million zeros in a row, why are you assuming the next digit is 1, right? Why wouldn't it just be another zero?
That would be software that makes no sense.
But yeah, so like Trav, I think I like how Trav puts it. Like, honestly, let me give you a couple more tidbits, and then why don't you piece it all together in your little virtual...
In your little brain. Why don't you just piece it all together?
No, in your virtual, like, visual aid or whatever that you're talking about. Okay? Yeah. So we go back to the tides, right? So tides created by the moon. Well, they don't believe in gravity in that respect, right? So what creates the tides? Well, of course, there's a giant magnet on the underside of the disk that's sitting there. And this magnet causes the tides. It just sometimes pulls.
Is this one of those magnets that's like U-shaped, like in the cartoons?
A bent bar magnet.
Yeah.
I totally didn't think of that. I just thought of like a giant like disc.
I mean, this might get into another big old question because I don't know if flat earthers believe in God or not, but if they did, they'd be like, this is just a funny trick you're playing on us, God, just putting a magnet at the bottom of our disc so that the waves crash.
I like Alan said, like honestly, for the most part, flat earthers are literally just like anyone else. Like if you weren't talking to them about the flat earth, you probably would never know that they have like this belief in the flat earth. Like they seem completely like normal people. They don't seem like the crazy thing that you would think of, like some dude running around with like a tinfoil hat on or whatever. Yeah. Like they seem fairly normal for the most part. They just, for some reason, really believe in this flat earth theory. And there's actually a little more into that I'll talk about in a minute after I'm done kind of explaining exactly what they believe. So that's the basic concept of, do you want to just kind of give it all in one fell swoop? Like, and with that,
I was going to say though, water is not a magnetic molecule, is it? Water doesn't react to magnets.
I don't know. If you put iron in it, I guess.
It's a lot of iron.
But
we have magnets that can only be magnetized to water.
It's a water magnet.
It's a water magnet.
So, in other words, gravity. Our way of gravity is everything, not water, but.
So,
okay.
So, yeah. And so, like, and the sun and the moon, they're not huge like we think of them as being. Like, the sun is much, much larger, 1 million times larger than the earth, right? Like, to them, the sun and the moon are
by
very,
volume.
Yeah, are very small. And so they're like these two little just globes just kind of floating above the earth. So that in a nutshell is what they picture how this flat earth works and looks like.
All I'm going to say is we're trying to be nice, but you're telling me that if you're talking to somebody, they seem completely normal, and the moment they say something to the effect of the earth is flat, you are now going to judge them so harshly, and everything that they say will no longer be credible.
Oh, okay.
They're probably Green Bay Packer fans.
I would probably 100% absolutely judge them very harshly.
Yeah, it's just like somebody, and you know what? We might start alienating some listeners here, but you have somebody that's just like, yeah, I don't vaccinate my kids. You're immediately like, go to hell. Like, okay, sorry.
That
seemed
true,
like a nice person until now. Now I just think you're cruel and you want to murder children.
Yeah.
But so same thing with like, I mean, maybe not to that extent, but we're having a conversation here and somebody's like, Earth is not a sphere. It's a disc and it has a water magnet at the bottom. And we're constantly flying through space.
And and it's an elevator.
It's basically like we're on an elevator. And I mean, when we drop things, it just catches up.
And George R.R. Martin discovered the Great Wall.
And just seriously, like, there is a big old ice wall. It's holding out all the water.
Wait, why are they like a valley girl?
Because this is how... Because that's seriously how I picture them.
Okay, so in my mind,
Valley girls don't use logic.
here's how in my mind they got to this form of the earth with all these different aspects that you just described. It's because they started with the earth is flat, and then somebody said, what about this? And they said, hang on, let me go think about it, I'll be back. They went and thought about it for a day, came back and said, this is what explains that. And then they said, okay, what about this? And they said, hang on, let me go home and think about it. Came back and said, this explains that. And they just did it one thing after another, not in their head connecting all the bits and pieces like we just did and building into like a full model, but they did it one at a time. This explains that, this explains that, this explains that, but then in the end you get this weird Frankenstein model of Earth.
And here is my final question, because we're going to have to move on with this too.
Yeah.
Because I've got a sweet question coming up. But why does it matter to them that the Earth is flat and not
that's
not
a good
spherical?
question,
What is the difference? Does that change anything?
I would say so based off the what was the name of that documentary? Because I want people to watch it. It's on Netflix. It's like, I don't know.
We watched it like a month ago now at this point. So I'll try and remember what it was. But
so based on that, and it's starring Bill Murray. If you watch it, you'll get that. The main guy in it, who's a flat earther, he reminds me so much of Bill Murray. That's probably another reason why it was hard to not like him. Like, legit.
It's funny because I watched the exact same documentary and I don't know what Alan's talking
Dude, Trav, if you watch it, you tell me if that's Bill Murray or not. Okay. You'll have to do a double take on certain scenes. But
it's called Behind the Curve.
Behind the Curve, yes.
On Netflix.
It's pretty good. What I got from it is they're people who are kind of they feel kind of on the outside of society. Is that how you would?
And that's going to bring them in.
No, so they kind of feel like they've always been on the outside. They've been like different a little bit, or maybe their political views are different. I don't know. They feel judged by other people, which instead of saying, oh, something about or that I need to change myself, they found each other and made a group of flat earthers and said, I don't need the rest of you guys, like we're all a group.
You know,
does that make sense?
Here,
like they found their
exactly
own,
what it's like.
They found their own kind, and they're like, now together they say, us going against everybody else, that's what it's about.
I know exactly. Okay. And again, this actually might be something I talk about in the future.
Uh-huh.
But this group is just like the bronies.
The what?
The dudes that love My Little Pony. They have a group. And we will get to that. That's actually, you know what? I'm putting it on the docket. We're going to talk about bronies sometime soon.
Like, it'll be a question coming up on a future episode, is what you're saying.
Who are the bronies? That is my question.
Oh,
that is what we'll talk about.
They're dudes that like My Little Pony.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do neither of you know who the bronies are?
No,
I do not.
Oh my gosh, this is going to be such a great episode when we finally get to me on that one. Okay.
So, anyway, like, yeah, I mean, like Alan's saying, in the end, whether, I don't know if it's, because it doesn't always seem like there's somebody who's like on the outside looking in. Sometimes it just seems like there are people who, like, for example, like, let's go through this list, okay? There's like a list of, here's some famous people you might know that are flat earth theorists. Kyrie Irving, Tila Tequila.
Who?
You don't remember Tila Tequila?
From MTV.
Oh.
Rapper Bob.
B.O.B. Annie. Rapper Bob.
Oh my god.
I'm old. How am I supposed to know this? But one thing I did learn about Rapper Bob
Acronym stands for nothing.
is that it's because it's B.O.B, but it stands for nothing. So that's why I just assume it's Bob.
It's B.O.B.
Sammy Watkins, football player, Wilson Chandler, Draymond Green, Shaquille O'Neal, and Stephon Diggs. So, for whatever reason, athletes.
Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
You guys a stupid wide receiver.
For anyone who doesn't know, Alan and I are Minnesota Viking fans. So that's what Trav's referring to. But, yeah, like, most of these are athletes, but these are people that are
So people who
Dumb athletes.
in college, they weren't really going to class all the time because they were on the field or in practice the whole day.
Yeah, but I'm saying like these people are people that you would imagine would be like popular. They would be, and I can't really say because maybe their lives are different that way. But so why would these people take on this kind of like alternative view on the fact that the world is flat?
And be so, like Travis said, care so much about it and insist so much on it.
Yeah. But in the end, I think what happens, and this goes back to what you're saying, Alan, is that eventually, however this group gets together, they get together and they do create kind of a close-knit community, right?
Yeah.
But they've also alienated everyone else around them for the most part because, like you said, if you heard that somebody was a flat earther, you wouldn't buy in, like you would think very differently of them from now on. So they eventually can get to the point where they are almost trapped inside of this flat earth society because if they were to suddenly realize like there's probably a fair amount that do realize like, oh yeah, actually never mind, it's not flat. There's enough proof that says it's not flat. But they can't say that because if they do, now they're pushing away all the people that are close to them. Yeah. And they've already pushed away all the people that were their friends before, so now they would really be all alone.
Yeah, like for example, in the documentary, Bill Murray is asked what if you changed your mind, and he said, even if I did come to the conclusion that the Earth is a sphere, I could not get out right now. He's like, I can't get out of this flat Earth community.
Basically, he's just admitting, like, yeah, I figured it out a long time ago, but I'm stuck, guys.
No, seriously, there is the feeling in there that while he's watching the American solar eclipse that happened a couple of years ago, there's a moment where I'm like, he totally, like, right in that moment, he knows that he's wrong. And then shortly after that, they ask him that question, and he's like, even if I wanted to, I couldn't get out.
And this actually happens when he's wearing a tuxedo and he's wearing a neon glowing bow tie and neon glowing glasses. So it kind of was a vulnerable moment for him, I think. But no, I mean, and in the end, like, yeah, his name's Mark Sargent. He actually seems fairly like a normal guy. Like, he actually seems fairly intelligent and fairly bright. It's just that, yeah, for whatever reason, he believed this or believes this, and now he's kind of got himself in this community, and whether he doesn't believe it anymore or not, he feels like he can't get out of it because he'd be letting a whole bunch of people down as one of the leaders, especially.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing in the end that people think this. And two other points I just want to make about the
and then we got to end it because we're running
the
way
Flat
over
Earth documentary that we watched. Was they ran these experiments. The flat earthers themselves ran experiments to prove that the Earth was flat. One of them was they purchased like a $20,000 like super precise laser operated gyroscope. And they said, well, if the Earth is actually a sphere and is like spinning, then this will have a skew of like 15 degrees per hour, because if you take 360 degrees
divided by
24, it's 15. And so they did this experiment. They tested it for an hour, and then they went and found, okay, how far off is the skew. They measured it. It was exactly 15 degrees. And they're like, oh, well, that doesn't help. They're like, it's the atmosphere above the Earth that's spinning, and that's what's causing it.
Yeah.
So they're like, we're going to put it into like a solid metal canister that will block out the atmosphere above it. And so they do. And they do that, and they measure it again, and they get the result, and its skew is exactly 15 degrees. And then the dude just like, well, we have the big, what was it, like the
That's
flat
like
Earth?
some big flat earther convention
Yeah.
coming up.
It was like this huge national flat Earth convention. It was like the first one ever. And he's like, yeah, we got to keep running these experiments because we can't show up with this data.
Yeah, we can't show up with this result.
Like, this will not go well. And then they did another experiment where some dude decided, I'm going to get this giant laser and I'm going to shine it 3.5 miles down this straight road. And when I do so, like, I should be able to have like this dot that's like on this other board straight in front of him. Long story short, in the end,
Like basically three styrofoam walls they put up, and if it's flat, it should the holes in them were all the same elevation, so it should go straight through, no problem. But if it's curved, the middle one should be raised up compared to the other two, and the light won't go through the middle one.
And through his trials and tribulations of doing this not so scientific science experiment, he also realized that it wasn't working the way it should.
Because the laser, like, even though it's a laser, it, like, you know how light cone goes out into a cone, it was doing this. So by the time it got to the first wall, the cone of light was way too big to even fit on the wall they made.
But that was one issue he had. But when they actually just did the experiment of like, can you see a light, period?
Yeah.
Like, if the world, and he says, if the world is round or a sphere, then you would have to raise the light above your head, and that's the only way we can see it.
Mm-hmm.
And so the guy's like, I'm shining it. He's like, are you shining it? Because I don't see anything. He's like, I'm shining it right now. And he's like, lift it above your head. And he's like, oh, I can see it. And then that's
right when he lifts it up, he's like, there it is.
yeah. And then that's how the episode, like the documentary ends, is
Oh,
basically
wow.
like a way to like,
Or no, he goes, he sees it and he immediately goes, that's interesting.
yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, it was flat earthers. I don't know what else to say about them, Trav.
Then we don't have anything else to say.
Actually, I have a lot more to say, but I know we don't have 4 hours to go over this, so we may revisit this theory at a later date.
I don't think so.
I can't control my questions. I can have
I can't control
question
them.
number 2 about flat earthers. So, Trav, what's your question?
Okay, I was just waiting for the transition here. I just want to make sure that you guys are completely done with fusion and flat earthers, and we can go on to this also very scientific question, which is, what is the Florida Man Challenge? I really feel like this is just completely out of whack now. Like, we've spent an hour talking about all of these things, these theories and scientific stuff, and this is really the dumbest thing ever.
This is the first episode. We had no idea what we were getting into, but I think in the future I will keep I'm going to keep my segments a little less long. They'll be shorter. I'll make sure of it.
All right. Basically, there's a trend going on right now. And, honestly, I don't know because I don't follow like all the trends. I'm pretty sure a while ago you invited me or challenged me to do the ice bucket challenge. And I freaking refused. Not because, and I'm sorry, it's not that I was like against muscular dystrophy or whatever, but I just didn't want to pour a freaking bucket on my head.
Bucket of ice water.
A bucket of ice water. And also because I feel like I have this thing, it's like if everybody's doing it, I have to not do it. I don't know why.
Oh, like a flat earther.
Like a flat earther.
It's all coming full circle.
I'm just saying, like, if there's
Full
like
disc.
a trend, like Janko jeans.
I remember those. I had Janko shorts.
Okay.
They were huge.
I refused to wear them because
I never wore Jankos.
but they were so massive.
They just looked
No,
dumb.
they were. To this day, I'm like, why did I do that? Like, it was all pure pressure. That's it. I just wanted to be cool and have Janko shorts. They were massive.
Actually, I'm pretty sure though, like it could have saved your life if you would have fallen out of an airplane.
Okay. But my point being is just that, so I don't really know how long this trend has been going, and I don't know how long it will continue going. But I do know that I found it quite amusing. And so basically what the point is you go to our favorite place, Google, and you type in Florida man and your date of birth. Now, not your year, but just the month and date. And Florida,
That's why you asked for my birthday.
Florida has so many crazy people that there is literally a Florida man story in news, like newspapers, blogs, whatever, for each day of the year. And they are crazy enough that it just is so entertaining. And so I figured I would do the stories for all of us and kind of share a couple of others. I'm not going to, they're very short. So I'm not going to like just, read. Oh, crud. I thought this was like a link. So
how many people live in Florida? What's the population? Nobody knows.
It's pretty decent because they have like quite a few electoral votes, don't they?
Yeah.
all right. So Danny,
They're like
your
the third or
birthday
fourth
is
largest.
September 30th. Mm-hmm. And yours is actually kind of sad.
Why do I always
But-
get sad ones?
Well, I mean, it's
like my dreams.
funny, but
They
so
always have sad meanings.
your Florida man is Florida man guns down puppy from apartment balcony.
What the
Yeah, exactly. So it starts out an 8-year-old girl lost her puppy on Saturday after
8-year-old
Saturday
girl?
after a Florida man shot it with his high-powered pellet gun with from his apartment balcony. The Davie Police Department arrested 19-year-old Johansson Concepcion de la Ros and charged him with a felony cruelty to animals. Basically, this dude just had this high-powered pellet gun rifle and saw this puppy out on this balcony and decided
It wasn't
you know
even
what?
barking or
No,
annoying
he
him
just,
or
he just wanted to
anything?
shoot it.
What
So
a
he shot it.
dick.
The puppy was only like 8 months old, and the dog, like when they let the dog back in, it was like bleeding from its mouth, and so they had no clue what happened. The only reason why they figured out what happened is because there was actually an not an undercover, but an off-duty officer that saw the whole thing, and so he just went and arrested the dude. But yeah, I guess he just shot him for no apparent reason.
So the puppy didn't die.
Oh, the puppy died. Yeah,
it did
but
Bled to death.
yeah,
that is depressing. It's hard to laugh at that story, Trav.
I know.
See, it's not depressing to me. It's more maddening.
Alan's is a little bit. Well, it's not as depressing, but Alan's Florida man is. Florida man yells, "I voted for Trump" at black Starbucks barista.
Oh, hell no.
So a Florida man who was allegedly angry because his coffee was taking too long was caught on video calling a Miami area Starbucks barista trash and also informing the entire coffee shop that he voted for President-elect Donald Trump. Jorge de Cardenas posted the video to his Twitter account. And in the video, the sweater-vested man can be heard asking for his money back and yelling, "You're trash," to the female barista. "'Cause I voted for Trump. Trump, you lost. Now give me my money back. You're garbage. You're complete trash."
I love how not getting coffee in time somehow translates to because he voted for Trump is why she is not giving him his coffee. Because she knows that he voted for Trump, of course.
Yeah, mine also is not like. There's some really funny ones, and mine's funny and sad at the same time because you just look at it and you're like, how dumb can you be? But in the end, somebody died, so it's sad. But Florida man shoots self in head to see if round in chamber.
Wait.
So
It's just like it's like a Russian.
Where do
roulette.
I point this to just test it? Probably my head.
So
Wait, was he with somebody? Like, how do they know that that's what he was doing?
So
He
it
had
was a man and his friend, his female friend, and they were out. I don't know if they were camping or whatever, but he had his gun and he took out the clip, and he was like, I don't know, is there still a round in there?
In the chamber?
Let's see. Points the gun to his head, pulls the trigger, and then he is no longer living. So.
That kind of reminds me of a story that happened. I mean, this is something that happened like 20 years ago because I remember I was a kid and my dad told me the story, but something about a dude who like was driving and then his truck stopped working. So he figured that he could get it to work. I think it was like part of the fuse or something like that if you put a bullet in there in its place.
Oh, yeah.
And then continued driving, but as like the engine heated up, the bullet went off and it shot him like in the crotch or something like that.
Yeah. So I thought I would just go through because there's a website that just has, it doesn't have every day or anything, but it just has some of the maybe more interesting ones, but just a few that I really enjoyed. So if your birthday is on April 3rd, this is yours. It's not just Florida man, it goes for Florida women as well, but April 3rd is Florida woman stabs and kills Florida man in Burger King love triangle. So basically, and I read this, there was just some altercation. This chick just got super upset and just like stabbed the worker at Burger King because of his
mistress or what?
No, I think it was him having. It doesn't really explain it. It just says there was some altercation with these three people, and this lady picked up a knife and stabbed this Burger King employee. Poor guy.
Wait, so the Burger King employee was part of the altercation, or
Yeah.
he was just a random?
He was part of the altercation. But
Wait, so he was part of the love triangle?
yeah, I mean, here, I can just read it real quick. So, a Florida woman has been charged with a second-degree murder for allegedly stabbing a Burger King coworker she was a coworker, after becoming upset about his relationship with another coworker at the fast food restaurant located, whatever. According to the Volusia County Sheriff's Office, 29-year-old Samantha El Bonilla of Deltona was captured on Burger King surveillance video stabbing the victim, 29-year-old Justin D. Hooks of Spring Hill, Florida. The video shows Hooks and a friend sitting together outside the restaurant playing cards at a table near the front doors. That's when Bonilla showed up and engaged in a confrontation with Hooks. After a brief scuffle, Bonilla moved toward Hooks with a knife, pointed it at his face. Hooks then turned away and pushed Bonilla, who fell to the ground, and dropped the knife. She got up, picked up the knife again, stabbed him, and left the scene. And then they picked her up later. So, I don't really know what the love triangle is, but that's what that is.
Did he die?
Yes. Well, because she got charged with second-degree murder. So, yeah.
How great would it have been if she like worked at McDonald's, so she had her McDonald's uniform on while she stabbed the Burger King, and somebody caught it on camera?
Yeah.
They're like
Burger King employee assassinated by McDonald's employee.
fast food wars have escalated.
So this one was pretty good. April 29th, a Florida woman offers sexual favors for $25 and chicken McNuggets.
Oh, that's worth it. Totally.
And apparently,
Not the
as I
$25,
went
but
through
the
and I read
nuggets.
this, that is not the only storyline where somebody has offered sexual favors for chicken in Florida.
Was it always a nugget form?
No, this one was like, it was $3 and a chicken sandwich. But what was funny with this is...
What if it was a live chicken?
So this lady and this guy start talking about, what she can provide for him and how much it's going to cost. And as they haggle, they finally settle on $25 and a box of chicken nuggets.
That is one professional.
As she
haggler.
hops in the car, she thinks she's going to McDonald's to get her nuggets. And he just takes her to a parking lot where there's a bunch of cops.
Is the undercover cop?
Yeah, I think so. He's like, yeah, my haggling skills are top notch. That's probably like a thing. They're like, how much were you going to have to pay? Let's see how low we could go.
But I'd like to see. I would
Because
like
an
to see
undercover
that.
cop normally would not care about haggling. They'd just be like, get anything, get any price. As long as they make a transaction, that's
It would
we
be
got 'em.
entertaining though to see that negotiation go down. Be like, how much? $100 and a bucket of chicken.
A bucket?
Yeah, that's too much.
No.
I'll give you $1 and a chicken fry.
$1?
No, I'm gonna need like $50 and a chicken sandwich. 25 and nuggets.
Chicken nuggets.
Deal.
But not the 10-piece, the 5-piece.
5-piece. No, nuggets at McDonald's are expensive, just so you know. Like
Yeah,
for
do we know
6-piece,
where
it's
these
like
nuggets came
for
from?
McDonald's, I think.
Some
I don't
type
know.
of all
Well,
white
yeah, I'm
meat
assuming it's
source.
Are you talking about like which
What?
store?
Yeah.
I'm assuming McDonald's because in the thing it says that she thought she was going to McDonald's.
Oh, yeah,
So,
that makes sense.
And
I
also,
saw-
nothing else is called McNuggets. They're just called chicken nuggets. These were McNuggets.
things that you can find in the details of the story that I missed because I was thinking like Burger King has a sale right now for 10 nuggets for $1.49.
Okay,
Don't go to Burger King.
Florida
Don't go to
woman-
Burger King and order a McFlurry.
Florida woman offers sexual favors for $25 and chicken McNuggets. I read that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
In
I got
hindsight.
that.
Okay, and then the last one really I can't read it because I did read it and it didn't make sense to me. But Florida man sues James Cameron, claims Titanic movie is based on his life. So apparently,
Wait, which character?
Yeah.
Leo he's Leo.
Oh.
Which Leo died.
So
at the
he's
end.
yeah.
So I don't know.
He's Leonardo DiCaprio and Jesus at the same time.
Yep.
He's like, what makes you think that this was based on your life? He's like, well, I'm the king of the world.
I mean, there are plenty of things here. Little Caesars employee shoots Florida man wearing clown mask. Florida man calls 911 for ride to Hooters, gets ride to
feel like-
jail instead.
I feel like these stories all include some kind of fast food restaurant. You had Little Caesars.
There are a
McDonald's,
lot of
Burger
them,
King,
yes.
Hooters.
So go ahead, check it out. If you find some cool ones, go ahead and post it to our website, which is qcodepodcast.com. We also have our various social medias, which I just barely set them up, so I don't remember them all quite. Here they are. So you can catch us on Twitter at QCode Podcast, Facebook QCode Podcast. They're basically all QCode Podcast. But Instagram as well. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review if you enjoyed this. If you did not enjoy it, just simply don't leave a review.
Well, no, just still leave a 5-star review.
They're not going to leave a 5-star review if
just-
they didn't
Just
enjoy it.
Think of stars as like your Chinese stars that you're throwing at us. You want to throw all 5.
Okay.
And to answer your question, Alan, there's 21.3 million people in Florida.
Yep. And so that's a lot of crazy.
So yeah, so this is kind of the
That's
whole,
about 7 times more crazy than what we would get here in Utah.
Exactly.
But next time, I believe we are going to cover topics such as the life of Dale Shaughnessy.
Nobody really knows
Who
who
is-
he is unless you are a resident here in Utah.
A totally awesome computers dude.
Do you have a totally awesome computer?
I think
No.
I think we'll also cover things like what did people in historic times do for fun?
Because I don't know. I'm going to find out. I was thinking about that when I was like doing my fun stuff. And I was like, what the f did people do before we had these things that I use for fun?
And also, how big of a box would you have to put all the people in the world in it?
These are things that we as a species should strive to know.
When I'm going through these different questions like this, it makes me feel like I'm on Ghostbusters 2, and I have that show, like the job that Peter Venkman has,
As the
where he's like talking to like those people, like psychics and stuff like that. And he's like, join us next time for like hairless pets.
another Bill Murray reference there.
Yep.
So thank you guys for listening to this, and we promise this is our first episode here, so we're gonna fine tune some things and get this down to a more manageable time. But thank you for listening, and if you have any questions that you'd like us to because we are not professionals at all. These are just things that we think of, and so then we decide that we're going to talk about them. If you want us to talk about something specific, throw it on our website or on one of our social media pages, and we will take a look at it and possibly talk about that. So thanks again, guys. Have a good week, and we'll see you next time.